Hello. This is season 2, episode 3, right?
Awesome. Yep.
So we're going to be speaking today about if you're.
Come on, you got to introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot. But we haven't introduced ourselves enough ones, have we?
I'm sure we have. We'll say this is Sonia Richard Show, or we'll say something along those lines.
Okay, yes, we said that. Okay, so this is Sonia Richard Show. I'm Sonia. This is Richard.
Yeah, Richard.
Okay. So today we're going to be speaking about receiving a future inheritance and things that you should consider. So there's a lot of people that would inherit things in their lifetime or would want to pass things to their children to create generational wealth. And it's just important that we kind of know the things to consider and the factors that need to be thought through before we start. So when you are given a gift or you want let's say your child to inherit, what are the things that you should consider or be aware of, Richard?
That's a good question. I think obviously we specialize in inheritance tax and trust planning and generational wealth. And so that's our kind of framework is always through those glasses. And if you're looking to make, the biggest challenge that I see often is parents are not considering their child's needs beyond just making a gift, or they don't know the impact it can make, and in the timing of when the gift should be made, not getting advice around that. So let me qualify it. So they can make a will and make a specific gift. I don't like specific gifts per se unless it's absolutely necessary in wills. And if they make a specific gift or pecuniary gift of money in a will for someone, and especially if it's a large amount, number one, well, what's their situation in the future? So are they married or not? Is the marriage kind of, on the rocks or a bit dodgy? Are they on benefits or some kind of means tested income of some form? Will it affect them? What's their mental health like? So people don't necessarily check these things. Or are they already wealthy enough in their own rights? If their children are married, maybe they're both doing very well. Do they actually need the money, or should you make the gift in a way that's not going to affect them even more in a negative way than they've already got a problem themselves? So these are kind of questions I always ask. And if children are abroad, there's different law forms internationally compared to over here. How will it affect them receiving that extra cash? Would it be even more detrimental for them? Should it be protected? Will it affect them from a tax perspective, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So we have to challenge the decisions of making a gift for inheritance tax purposes. Sorry, making a gift for future inheritances, whether that's the person making the gift or the person expected to receive a gift, when they're in a more of a difficult position because they can't be seen to be, influencing their parents, or some people find it very hard to even raise the conversation, and then sometimes it's too late to raise the conversation. So these are the challenges that we're having.
Okay, so you have spoken about that mainly in the position of somebody wanting to gift. So what about if you're receiving an inheritance? What should you be aware of?
Again, it's kind of similar. It's just, is there a way that, especially if someone's got a situation or a challenge, again, maybe they've got their own individual inheritance tax challenge, maybe they've got their own, they're going for a divorce, or they've got certain scenarios, again, through their income that could really impact their lifestyle. Would that gift make it more detrimental? And what type of gift are they receiving? That's another thing. So if they're receiving land and property compared to cash, that's going to make a big impact as well. Or shares in a business or something along those lines, and the timing. So yeah, again, these are questions that I would naturally be asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe just a question.
Yeah.
So obviously, when you're making a gift or you receive an inheritance that is worth a lot of value, there's the potential to get taxed on that.
Yeah.
So obviously there's obviously ways, I'm sure, to kind of maneuver around that to kind of reduce that tax.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm sure trusts do benefit in that.
It can play a strong part depending on what factors, but it can definitely play a strong part.
So
Yeah.
even if you are inheriting from someone, because I'm just trying to get my mind around it.
Yeah.
If you're inheriting something, that person's already passed away, could you put that in a trust before it could potentially get inheritance tax, or you can't? That's not possible.
So the factors that we're looking at, if I understand the question correctly,
Yeah.
some people can make gifts during their lifetime
Yeah.
and use a trust as a vehicle to pass that gift on.
Mm.
Some people may decide to gift when a death event takes place, if they need the funds at that particular time or whatever it might be. So that's the first kind of that's the first instances I'll be looking at if a trust is even required. Obviously, if someone has an inheritance tax challenge and they're young enough to start dealing with it without it, to mitigate it as much as possible, then lifetime solutions are definitely options that we present.
But what I'm saying is that person's already passed away, and
it's already passed. Sorry.
Yes, and they've left something for, let's say, their child to inherit.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure inheritance tax is already going to come into place now.
Well, yeah. If it's due, there's nothing you can do. Well,
there's nothing you can do at that point.
Not technically. There's depends on the situation. Everyone's different. But I always try to avoid those scenarios of retrospective planning. But but technically speaking, it is possible, but it's very limited in what can be done.
That's why the planning should have been
done beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you've touched on gifts. The most common gifts are like property, land, cash, and shares as well.
Yeah.
So just to kind of touch on that briefly, you don't have to go into too much detail. But how would you make gifts appropriately according to each, like land?
Well, I think generally speaking,
yeah,
because everyone has, no two clients are the same. Everyone's situation is different and circumstances. I would look at things, especially like land. Okay, do the beneficiaries already own property or land? What are they married or not? Will it make an impact? How would you feel about the situation if your hard work was distributed sideways by 50% because your child's marriage just didn't work out? Would you be bothered by it? Does it really grieve you? Those are the questions that I'd be asking. Did you inherit the land, so you're passing it down to your children? So are you a custodian to wealth? Are you even more passionate to make sure that wealth is preserved in the bloodline? Once you understand the motives and the passion for the client, especially where land is concerned, then you can start to guide as to what's the best ways to try and distribute it, whether during lifetime or in a death event, etc. Because everyone's different. When it comes to shares, what kind of business is it? Is it a trading business? Can we claim business relief? How much business relief can we claim? Is it a farm? How much agricultural relief can be claimed? Is it a combination of the two? Again, do your children intend to continue the family business, or are they not going to be involved? What's the exit plan for the business? Do you have business partners or not? Is there a shareholder agreement or not? All these questions I'll be asking to, will it make a commercial impact having the children on board or not as shareholders? Blah, blah, blah. These are the questions that I'll be asking. Cash is pretty straightforward. Far less questions to ask compared to the other types of assets, but it has an impact. You just need to spend it or gift it. If you're trying to plan for inheritance tax purposes, spending it's far easier. Gifting it, there's a 7-year survival. And then bearing in mind, if a death event takes place in any type of constitution of any kind of property, land, cash, shares, maybe shares is the caveat because you can claim relief on it. But ultimately, if a death event occurs within a 7-year period, then the loved one will potentially have to pay tax on that. Is that something you've mitigated or planned for? So, yeah, those are the kind of areas that we'd be looking to explore, converse, get your opinion on, and then delve deeper. Then there's an international element. Are they resident here or non-resident here? What impact would that make?
Yeah.
Because of UK law and inheritance tax versus international law, private law, etc., that may have an impact. Okay. So yeah, these are the kind of questions I'll be looking at.
So, for the people out there that are watching this, either
Yeah.
they want their children or their loved ones to inherit, or they are expecting a future inheritance, what discussions need to be had, and what can be basically what I mean. But what discussions need to be had in regards to that when you want to bring it up to their family members? Like, what should they mention to them? What should they consider?
That's a tough one, because I don't know about the different communities that I've dealt with. Some communities are very open to talking about wealth, and others are extremely closed about talking about wealth and later life. My community are very closed in general. I'm not making an assumption, but 9 times out of 10, you bringing up death to a Caribbean or African parent.
It's not bringing up death, is it?
Yeah, but that's the connotation. So you start to Will, you're trying to kill me off.
No.
And it's this whole jinxing scenario, which is not jinxing. You're trying to be responsible, and they just don't want to talk about it. And in the problem that arises, if it was discussed in advance, we could have avoided it. That's my community.
Yeah.
Different communities I deal with, I'm saying most communities probably in the main have that kind of scenario, but some are worse than others, and some are much more responsible and open about it. And like, yeah, we've got to discuss it, we've got to talk about it. We know we've got the family wealth. We've heard stories, or we've seen it done, or something really bad happened to a friend of ours. We can't see it repeated in our family, so we've got to do something ASAP. Some are more vocal, and it depends on the family dynamics as well, how open they are about wealth and money. But it is important. It really does. It is really super important to discuss it and be open about that. Not from a negative connotation of, oh, I'm going to die, but you're passing. How are we going to transfer this wealth and maximize that transfer so everyone can enjoy it? And there's peace of mind. There's no disputes and arguments.
Yeah. Because I'm sure that's the last thing you'd want for anyone, really, for their family to argue over who's taking this, who's taking that, who's entitled to this. It does become overwhelming.
Yes.
Especially in that process of, you've just lost a loved one.
Yeah.
But just to move away from that a little bit.
Okay.
So what type of advice would be required if somebody wants to kind of delve deeper into this, if they're regarding inheritance?
For us at Once Was a Trust, the only advice we give people is to get a consultation. There's only 2 products that we kind of quote unquote sell, is a consultation. We've got 2 types, specialists and premium. And if your wealth is under £1 million, if you're married, or £500,000 if you're single, that's a specialist product. 1 hour consultation, we can run through all those things, go through all the questions with you, so you can make an informed choice and know what your options are. If your wealth exceeds that, then the premium, because it's an unlimited service, and we really delve deeper and address those challenges, so you can make a choice. And because it's unlimited, we're not rushing, and you can really delve deep and figure out, well, what is it you want to do, and how does it work, and why does it work, and why does it best suit you? We refuse to sell or provide any kind of product, will, trust, anything like that, unless someone's had a consultation with us directly, because we're not a commodity business. We're not here to just flog wheels at you. We want to train families to understand about generational wealth, so that they can make the right choice, even if they don't take up any of the facilities that they need, or the recommendations that we provide, that we offer. At least they can ask really good, bona fide, genuine questions to other professionals and challenge them, which is what I believe in, so that they can get the best what they need for their family and loved ones.
And even if you're just looking for advice or guidance, really, just on how you'd want to help your family and create generational wealth, starting from your parents or grandparents, you can literally just come to us for advice. Just to know a bit more. And we do have a lot of supporting channels that you could learn from us.
Materials.
So just to touch on making, I think you've already mentioned this, but making gifts in your will and in your lifetime.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it. I mean, again, just to reiterate, it can trigger problems, especially lifetime gifting. Pretty much doesn't matter what it is, except for cash, of tax, and certain items potentially. So again, get the right advice first.
But can I ask?
Yeah.
Is there one that's better? Gifting in death or lifetime?
It's hard to say because everyone's different. Everyone's got different. Most people are cash rich. I mean, property rich and asset rich and cash poor.
Mm-hmm.
And when the main home is the significant asset in the home in the family,
Mm-hmm.
it can be very challenging of how to mitigate. We've got one client at the moment, £900,000 house, £300,000 savings. Has the savings, not working, in their 60s, children are abroad, they want to keep the house, they want to make a gift to their children, they want the children to inherit the property. If they gift the property to the children, that's going to have an impact in the jurisdiction that we're living in at the moment, so they should utilize a trust. They don't want to utilize a trust because they live in the property, so there's no inheritance tax benefits for them because they live in the property. They don't want to get life insurance because they don't want to spend money on life insurance. So there's no mitigation of risk, for whole of life insurance for inheritance tax purposes. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because they live in the property. They could downsize. They could rent the property out. They could sell the property and give away the cash.
And that's them doing it in their lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. But for that particular client, they don't want to spend any more money. And that's their prerogative. So there's going to be a tax.
So which ones are most popular? Which options do people tend to go for most?
I wouldn't say there's a more popular or less popular. I said everyone's different. So it's down to individual circumstances for people to make an informed choice. That's what I'm saying. We can't package it as get this and you'll get, do X and you get Y, do A and you'll get B. It just doesn't work that way.
But some people, I'm just trying to think of how some people think, it's my life. I want to enjoy my assets.
Oh, 100%.
And they don't want to necessarily give that away until they pass away.
Right.
Then they're happy to give that away. So then that's where they would do it in their gift, in their will.
Yeah. But our job is just to let you know the pros and cons of the decisions that you make. So you can either stick with the decision and know the risks. You can mitigate the risks or not mitigate the risk or take a different type of action. Our job is not to let you make the decisions for you. Our job is just to inform you based on what your plans are and how you intend to do it. It will or won't work. And based on what your personal beliefs, you don't want to pay tax, you're happy to pay tax, will this method work or not?
Okay.
That's it. We can't do anything else. But at least you have the opportunity to make a decision as opposed to, if only we knew. Hindsight is a very expensive lesson. Ignorance is a very expensive financial lesson. So we're just trying to eliminate that. And we believe business owners deserve the right to create generational wealth. Everyone pays enough taxes in a lifetime, especially business owners. You're not paying taxes for yourself. You're paying taxes for your employees. You're paying NI insurance. You're paying everything else, pensions, blah, 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 blah. Why can't you create generational wealth for your loved ones?
Yeah.
You work hard enough to pay the tax man in your lifetime.
And you wanted to pay more.
So if that's you, then we can assist you. If you're like, well, look, we believe the government's helped me, so I've got to give back some money. Great, that's your thought process. Not saying I won't help you, but we believe in creating generational wealth for loved ones and family. So that's all our job is to inform you. You've heard the term to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Yeah? Is that the term? Yeah.
I think so.
I think so. Well, you know what I mean, right? So, and that's our job. That's what we're here for. It's not to, scare you or put you off from certain things. But if you didn't know, now you do.
And you did touch. Thank you for that.
That's all right.
You did touch a bit on gifting internationally a bit earlier.
Yeah.
Do you mind just kind of going into that a little bit? If the pros and cons of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite complicated, but
so if
it's keeping it really simple. If you have property abroad, you got to have it in writing in your lifetime of how you want that handled. Else, under UK law, well, England and Wales especially, worldwide assets will be included as part of your estate worldwide, and that can be very problematic for probate purposes because we've got international laws that need, and then we have a system here of domicile of residence. We have a system here of lex situs, based on land, and any chattels or movable items is based on where that item is, and it becomes complicated. So to eliminate that, just whatever stays in England stays in England. Whatever stays in the Caribbean, whatever stays in the Caribbean. whatever stays in Europe stays in Europe. And then that's a simple. Then if you've got a mix where you're considered non-resident or considered non-domicile, or you have a partner who's the same, or you have children, then it becomes complicated. And so you need to get the right advice tax-wise to make the right choices for your gifting. And some people don't have no option but to be non-resident and or non-domicile because they've got too much wealth. Well, too much wealth is relative, but they've got enough wealth to say, you know what, it's cost-effective for me to be abroad now. It's cost-effective for me to be non-resident, non-domiciled and non-resident. So the advice they're going to receive is different from someone who lives here. And that's just the long and short of it.
So that process can be quite technical.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, so just to touch on family, really. So if you're living with parents and they want to gift a home to you, how would that work?
Well, that's always been the problem. There's something called, like, people call it up and say, oh, I've heard of this section 102B. I want some advice, and I'm hearing that you can bypass inheritance tax if your family occupied a home. And unfortunately, some rogue advisors out there that try and spin a yarn on the definition of occupy, even though there's no technical definition, there's a common sense approach to it. And so when you kind of burst their bubble, the client, well, sorry, you don't qualify for this, it can be really detrimental. So the basically, if you have family that live at home with you, then the Finance Act 1986, I think, Section 102B, I'm not going to quote if it's 3 or 4, I get them mixed up, but ultimately that legislation defines what is the revenues point of view of what is classed as a gift with reservation of benefit and what's not. And so if you have family and loved ones that live with you in the same house and you're able to gift to them because they actually occupy the house, they live there, and there's, but they've got to understand what is the cons to that remit, not just the pros. The family needs to get advice too, because there's stuff like higher rates of stamp duty. If they get married in the future and they leave, that can completely unwind the planning that you're doing. All that kind of stuff needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
And so it's not as straightforward, as simple as one may want to make out, or say, people are sending this package. I'm coming across, seeing and hearing about stuff, and it's just not right. So it's it's an option, but it's not for everyone. Another option is paying rent. But who wants to pay rent to yourself? Like, if you live in an area where average rent is £5,000 a month, who wants to do that in their later years?
But if they're paying it to themselves, it might sound like a silly question. They're paying it to themselves, right?
No. So, well, they could do, but the better way for it is either, if it's normally what happens is a gift with reservation means that a gift has been made. And so whoever owns the gifts, if it's a trust or an individual, then how is the rent going to be paid and who receives it? So I don't think you can necessarily receive rent to yourself. I know a separate entity would have to be receiving that in order for you to say, I no longer own it. You can't pay yourself something and say you no longer own it.
Yeah.
So that's where the challenge comes. Ultimately, that money is leaving you for you to say you no longer have a benefit.
Yeah.
And then there's something called pre-owned asset tax. So if you are benefiting indirectly from that income, you're going to get stung anyway. So yeah, these anti-avoidance rules are pretty strong, and we've got to get the right advice to make it work if you're going to make it work.
Thank you. And lastly, well, I said lastly like I'm desperate.
No, it's fine.
Lastly, what if you're gifting, or I'm messing up my words now.
No.
But you're receiving an inheritance.
Yeah.
And you're considered a vulnerable or disabled person. How do you work around that?
Yeah, there is legislation that is very, very positive for those who are vulnerable. Now they can either self-declare if they got the the means and the paperwork to qualify. I think in Section 89 of the Inheritance Tax Act. Don't quote me, but I think it's Section 89 of the Inheritance Tax Act 1984. And so there's criteria that the government has put in place that will allow people to qualify, or they can self-declare if they qualify. legislation is quite straightforward in that
Mhm.
respect. And then trusts can be set up, discretionary trust. So it acts like a discretionary trust, does the whole works of discretionary trust, but for tax purposes, completely opposite. It's called a relevant property regime. And that can be
Mm.
very beneficial. Yes, you've got to survive 7 years, but it's still far more beneficial because you can effectively put unlimited amount in the trust without getting any tax.
Yeah.
And that can be very beneficial for family members who want to bless any loved ones who may be deemed vulnerable in one way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
But they just need to be aware of it. And also that comes under the same remit for, or similar remit for, things like personal injury and stuff like that. So again, it's worth exploring if anyone kind of, it's not personal injury is not really under the banner of what we're talking about, but what I was talking about, it came to me. But yeah, so it's just a kind of a side point. But yeah, that with the vulnerable person's kind of trust is very powerful, and the planning can be very flexible if you get it right.
Well, thank you so much, Richard.
No, thank you.
That's all my questions answered wonderfully.
Yeah, excellent. And great questions being asked as well.
Yes. So yeah, that is it until next week,
Okay.
Tuesday.
Yes.
And yeah, we'll bring more content for you, more podcasts.
Yeah.
Please let us know what more you'd want to see.
Yes,
We'd
please.
love to hear your input as well. And yeah, that's the end of the Sonia Richard Show for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.